Don't you dare. You're mine now.
Don't you dare touch me. The words died in my throat the moment his eyes locked on mine from across the crowded exhibition hall. I knew who Jae-hyun was. Everyone in Seoul's art scene whispered his name like a dark prayer. The businessman. The collector. The monster who ruled the city's underworld with tattooed hands that were rumored to be stained with blood beneath their perfect manicure. I never meant to catch his attention. Never wanted to become his obsession. But the moment that rival gallery owner placed his hand on my lower back, something shifted in the room. Something dangerous. Something that made the air freeze in my lungs. Don't you dare, Jae-hyun's voice cut through the ambient chatter like a blade. She's mine now. Those 4 words, spoken in front of Seoul's elite, collectors worth billions, my professional colleagues, everyone who mattered in my career, those 4 words shattered everything I'd built. My reputation. My independence. My safety. And what terrifies me most? Not his power. Not his brutality. Not even the violence I've witnessed since that night. What terrifies me is how desperately I want him to say those words again. Want to know how a respected American art curator became the possession of Korea's most feared man? Want to know what happens when you're claimed by someone who destroys anything he can't own? Keep listening, because this nightmare is just beginning. If you're already intrigued by my dark journey into Seoul's dangerous underworld, make sure you hit that subscribe button now. You won't want to miss what happens next. I came to Seoul with a 5-year plan, a stellar resume, and the naive belief that talent and hard work were universal currencies. 6 months later, I learned that some worlds operate on different rules entirely. Rules written in blood and enforced with violence so elegant you almost miss it happening. The exhibition was supposed to be my crowning achievement. Contemporary Korean artists juxtaposed with Western influences, a perfect cultural bridge that would establish my reputation internationally. The Seoul Museum of Modern Art had given me complete creative control, a budget that made my previous New York salary look like pocket change, and connections to collectors who normally wouldn't give an American curator the time of day. That night, the exhibition glowed under carefully calibrated lighting. Each piece positioned exactly as I'd envisioned during my sleepless planning sessions. The champagne flowed, the string quartet played something haunting and traditional with a modern twist, and Seoul's elite circulated in designer clothing that probably cost more than my annual rent. I wore black, a sleek dress that hugged my curves without being inappropriate, professional but confident. My hair pulled back in a chignon that took an hour to perfect. Emerald earrings that had been my grandmother's, the only truly valuable thing I owned. I looked good. I felt powerful. Ready to charm donors, impress critics, and cement my position in this new world I'd entered. I never noticed him watching me. Not at first. The whispers reached me before I saw him. Museum staff suddenly straightening, conversations faltering, a ripple of tension spreading through the crowd like a stone dropped in still water. Then the crowd parted, and he was there. Jae-hyun Kim. 36 years old. CEO of Kim Enterprises with legitimate businesses spanning real estate, technology, and entertainment. Rumored head of the most powerful criminal organization in Seoul. A man who collected art with the same ruthless precision he used to eliminate rivals. I'd never met him, though his name was on the VIP list. His donation to the museum had secured him an invitation, but no one expected him to actually attend. Men like him sent representatives, not themselves. Yet there he was. Taller than I expected. Broader. More physically imposing than his carefully curated public photos suggested. He wore a black suit that made everyone else's designer labels look cheap in comparison. No tie. The top buttons of his shirt opened just enough to hint at the tattoos beneath, traditional Korean imagery that I'd later learned covered most of his body, each one marking a milestone in his rise to power. His face, though, that was what made my breath catch. Devastatingly handsome in that cold, perfect way that seemed almost artificial. Sharp cheekbones. Full lips that barely curved in a perpetual hint of amusement. And his eyes, dark, intelligent, assessing everything and revealing nothing. If you're captivated by Jaehyun's presence as much as I was, this story only gets more intense. Like this video now to let me know you want the next chapter. He looked at me exactly once during that first hour. A brief, dismissive glance as Director Park introduced us. His eyes swept over me like I was another piece in the exhibition, to be catalogued, valued, and then ignored. He spoke perfect English when he congratulated me on the collection, but there was no warmth in it. Just polite automation from a man going through expected social motions. I felt instantly diminished. Irrelevant. And it made me furious. Who was he to dismiss me? I'd curated collections across 3 continents. Had pieces in the Whitney before I turned 30. Had fought through every little girl and sweetheart and diversity hire comment to earn my place in an industry dominated by men twice my age. I didn't need the approval of some criminal masquerading as a businessman, no matter how many millions he donated. So I threw myself into the evening. Charmed the critics. Laughed with the right donors. Explained my artistic vision with passion and precision. Drank just enough champagne to feel warm but not loose. Professional. Perfect. Proving my worth even if he couldn't see it. Min-ho Lee approached me near the central installation. A massive multimedia piece representing the division between North and South Korea. He was young, handsome in that polished way of men born to wealth, the owner of a rival gallery that had tried to poach me when I first arrived in Seoul. His interest had always seemed more personal than professional, but I'd maintained boundaries with practiced ease. "Your vision is extraordinary, Haley," he said, standing closer than necessary. "The way you've captured our cultural duality while honoring traditional aesthetics, remarkable for an outsider." The backhanded compliment made me grit my teeth, but I smiled through it. Art speaks a universal language, Min-ho. Though I appreciate the months I spent studying Korean artistic traditions. Perhaps you need a more personal guide to truly understand our culture. His hand settled on my lower back, warm through the thin fabric of my dress. Not quite inappropriate, but definitely presumptuous. My family has collections going back centuries. Private pieces never displayed publicly. I could show you. I was formulating a polite rejection when I felt it, that inexplicable sensation of being watched. The hairs on my neck rising despite the gallery's perfect climate control. An awareness that swept through me like a physical touch. I turned slightly, scanning the crowd, and found Jaehyun's eyes locked on us from across the room. He wasn't speaking to anyone. Wasn't pretending to admire the artwork. He was simply watching, his champagne flute untouched in his hand, his expression unreadable except for the slightest tightening around his eyes. Even from that distance, I could feel the intensity of his focus, no longer dismissive but burning with something that made my skin prickle. Min-ho's hand pressed more firmly against my back, guiding me toward a quieter corner. "The acoustics in here make conversation difficult. Perhaps we could. Remove your hand before I remove it for you." The voice came from directly behind us, though I hadn't seen Jaehyun move. Hadn't noticed his approach. Yet suddenly he was there, close enough that I could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle that reminded me of cedar and smoke. The tension between these powerful men with me caught in the middle is just the beginning. Comment below if you can already feel the danger brewing. Min-ho's hand dropped away like my dress had burned him. "Jaehyun SSI, I didn't realize you had an interest in the curator." His voice held forced lightness, but I could hear the fear beneath it. "Now you do." 2 words, delivered with such cold finality that they seemed to drop the temperature in the room. I should have been outraged. Should have immediately established that I wasn't anyone's interest, wasn't available to be claimed or disputed like a piece of merchandise. But something in Jaehyun's presence, the sheer force of his will pressing against me like a physical weight, left me momentarily speechless. Min-ho bowed slightly, murmuring apologies, and retreated with the awkward haste of prey escaping a predator. I found my voice, professional but cool. "Mr. Kim, I don't recall asking for your intervention. Min-ho and I were having a professional conversation." His eyes flickered over my face, noting my flushed cheeks, the tension in my jaw. One corner of his mouth lifted in what wasn't quite a smile. Were you? Strange. It looked like a man with a reputation for sleeping with foreign employees was trying to add another conquest to his collection. The accuracy of his assessment made my flush deepen. My personal interactions aren't your concern. They are now. He stepped closer, not touching me but claiming the space around me with a presence that seemed to expand beyond his physical form. You've created something remarkable here, Ms. Bennett. Your understanding of our artistic heritage shows unusual depth for an American. I find myself interested. The way he said interested made it sound like something dangerous, something forbidden. My heart raced despite my determination to remain professional. I'm glad the exhibition meets with your approval, Mr. Kim. Your foundation's support was instrumental in. I'm not talking about the exhibition. His eyes never left mine, intense and unblinking. Though it is exceptional. I'm talking about you. Before I could respond, we were interrupted by Director Park, nervously announcing it was time for my curatorial speech. I'd never been so grateful for an interruption, escaping Jaehyun's proximity with what I hoped looked like professional poise rather than retreat. The speech went well. I'd practiced it for weeks, perfecting every word in both English and my still developing Korean. The audience responded with enthusiastic applause, and for a moment, I recaptured that sense of accomplishment, of professional pride. Then I made the mistake of looking for Jaehyun in the crowd. He stood at the back, ignored by no one yet approached by no one. His eyes never left me as I spoke, watching with an intensity that made me stumble over words I'd rehearsed 100 times. When I finished, he didn't applaud. Just raised his champagne glass in a silent toast that felt more intimate than if he'd shouted praise across the room. I tried to avoid him after that. Circulated through the exhibition spaces. Engaged with critics and collectors. Accepted congratulations and deflected the occasional barbed comment disguised as praise. But I remained aware of him always, moving through the periphery of my vision, a dark constant I couldn't escape. Hours passed. The crowd thinned as the evening progressed. I found myself in the East Gallery, momentarily alone, studying a piece that juxtaposed traditional Korean pottery techniques with contemporary political imagery. You're avoiding me. I didn't turn around. Didn't need to. His voice had already become disturbingly familiar, raising goosebumps along my arms. Are you feeling the chemistry building? This dangerous attraction only intensifies in the full story. Hit that bell icon so you don't miss a single moment of what happens next. I'm working, Mr. Kim. This is a professional event. Jaehyun. He moved beside me, his shoulder nearly touching mine as he studied the artwork. When we're alone, you'll call me Jaehyun. The presumption should have angered me. Instead, it sent a thrill of something dangerous down my spine. We're not alone. We're in a public museum surrounded by guests. Look around, Haley. The use of my first name, the way it sounded in his mouth, accented but perfect, made me finally turn to him. He was right. The gallery had emptied without my noticing. The last few guests visible only as distant silhouettes through the doorway to the main hall. How do you know my name? Director Park introduced me as Ms. Bennett. The smile that touched his lips then was real, small but genuine, transforming his face from cold perfection to something devastatingly human. I know everything about you. Harvard Art History. Whitney Museum Assistant Curator at 27. Passed over for promotion twice despite bringing in record donations. Left New York after your engagement ended. Arrived in Seoul 6 months ago with impressive credentials and something to prove. My blood ran cold. You've been investigating me. I investigate everyone who interests me. And what exactly made me interesting enough to warrant a background check? My voice hardened with the anger I'd been suppressing all evening. He studied me for a long moment before answering. You created beauty out of conflict. Harmony from opposition. He gestured to the exhibition around us. East and West. Traditional and modern. Past and future. You found the connections others missed. His eyes returned to mine. That's rare. That's valuable. That's interesting. Something in his voice made it clear he wasn't just talking about my curatorial skills. I stepped back, needing distance from his overwhelming presence. Well, your interest is noted but unnecessary. After tonight, this exhibition runs for 3 months, then I move on to my next project, probably back in the States. His expression shifted, something possessive flickering across his features. No. You'll stay in Seoul. The commanding tone snapped my patience. Excuse me. My career plans aren't subject to your approval, Mr. Kim. Your next exhibition will be at my private gallery. Exclusively Korean female artists, spanning the Japanese occupation through contemporary works. You'll have triple your current budget and complete creative control. I blinked, momentarily derailed by the offer itself, a dream project with resources beyond anything I could hope for elsewhere. Then I registered the assumption behind it. You can't just decide my future without consulting me. I just did. And if I refuse? His smile returned, this time edged with something predatory. You won't. You seem very confident for someone who met me 2 hours ago. I've known you longer than that, Haley. He reached out, his fingers lightly touching the emerald earring dangling from my left ear. Not touching my skin, but close enough that I could feel the heat of his hand. These were your grandmother's. You wear them to every important professional event. For courage, you told Director Park last month over dinner. I stepped back, truly alarmed now. You've been watching me. Yes. That's stalking. That's harassment. In your country, perhaps. He shrugged, unconcerned. Here, it's due diligence before making a significant investment. I'm not an investment. Everyone is an investment of some kind. Time. Money. Emotion. The only question is whether the return will be worth it. His eyes traced over my face with careful attention. With you, I believe it will be. Wondering what happens when a powerful man becomes fixated on you. When your career and even your safety hang in the balance. Share this video with anyone who loves intense romantic thrillers. I opened my mouth to tell him exactly how inappropriate and unwelcome his attention was when Minho reappeared at the gallery entrance, visibly hesitating before approaching. Haley, I apologize for the interruption, but several critics are asking about the symbolism in the central installation. Perhaps you could. She's busy. Jae-hyun didn't raise his voice, but the words cut through the space like a physical force. Minho stiffened. With all respect, Jae-hyun SSI, the exhibition curator has responsibilities too. I said. Jae-hyun turned slowly to face him, she's busy. The tension between them crackled like electricity. I could see museum security glancing nervously in our direction, uncertain whether to intervene. I need to handle this, I said firmly, moving toward Minho. My professional responsibilities come first, Mr. Kim. We can continue our discussion another time. I hadn't taken 3 steps when Jae-hyun's hand closed around my wrist. Not painful, but firm. Inescapable. Don't you dare walk away from me. The words were soft but threaded with steel. Let go of me. I kept my voice low, aware of the attention we were beginning to attract. Let her go, Jae-hyun. Minho moved forward, foolish bravery overriding his obvious fear. You're creating a scene. Something dangerous flickered in Jae-hyun's eyes. Without releasing me, he turned to Minho. Your father's gallery is currently displaying 3 pieces smuggled through Chinese brokers last year. Pieces with questionable provenance from North Korean collections. One anonymous tip would trigger an investigation that would destroy your family's reputation and business. His voice remained conversational, almost pleasant. Do you really want to challenge me right now? The color drained from Minho's face. He backed away, bowing slightly. I apologize for the intrusion. Minho, wait. I started, but he was already retreating, leaving me alone with Jae-hyun. I jerked my wrist from his grasp, fury overtaking my professional composure. How dare you? How dare you threaten my colleague, interrupt my work, manhandle me at my own exhibition? He's not your colleague. He's a predator who slept with the last 3 foreign women who worked with his gallery. All of whom mysteriously lost their positions afterward. Jae-hyun straightened his cuffs, unconcerned by my anger. As for interrupting your work, the exhibition is effectively over. Most guests have left. The critics have filed their initial impressions. Your professional obligations are fulfilled. That doesn't give you the right to. Don't you dare raise your voice to me in public. Again, that soft, dangerous tone that somehow silenced me more effectively than a shout would have. Before I could respond, he stepped closer, one hand moving to my lower back, precisely where Minho's had been earlier. The difference in how it felt was startling. Minho's touch had been presumptuous but forgettable. Jae-hyun's burned through the fabric of my dress like a brand. You're making a scene, he murmured close to my ear. People are watching. Your professional reputation matters to you. So smile, look charmed, and walk with me to the central gallery. Once we're alone, you can berate me all you want. He was right. Staff members were watching with poorly concealed interest. The remaining guests had noticed the tension. Director Park was approaching with a concerned expression. I forced a smile, leaning slightly toward Jae-hyun as if we were having a pleasant conversation. I hate you for this, I whispered through clenched teeth. No, you don't. His hand pressed more firmly against my back as he guided me toward the main exhibition space. You're angry. You're confused. You're afraid. But beneath that, you're intrigued. You're delusional. Your pulse is elevated. Your pupils are dilated. Your breathing has quickened. His observations were clinical but delivered with intimate satisfaction. Your body recognizes what your mind is still fighting. My body is responding to stress and anger, not attraction. Is there a difference? The question held genuine curiosity beneath the arrogance. Director Park intercepted us, her professional smile strained. Ms. Bennett, is everything all right? Mr. Lee seemed upset when he left. Everything is perfect, Director Park. Jae-hyun answered before I could, his smile transforming his face into something so charismatic it seemed almost unfair. Ms. Bennett was just explaining the symbolism behind this remarkable central piece. Her insights are illuminating. Director Park visibly relaxed, social disaster apparently averted. Wonderful. Mr. Kim, your attendance tonight has honored us. Your foundation support has been instrumental in. Actually, he interrupted smoothly, I was discussing a private commission with Ms. Bennett. For my personal collection. Perhaps you could give us a moment. The dismissal was polite but unmistakable. Director Park retreated with another strained smile, leaving us relatively alone in the central gallery. A circular space dominated by the exhibition's most controversial piece. I stepped away from his touch the moment we were alone. What exactly do you think you're doing? I am not some acquisition you can add to your collection. You misunderstand me. He moved to stand before the central artwork, studying it with what appeared to be genuine interest. I don't want to own you, Haley. I want to understand you. There's a difference. Understanding doesn't require background checks and threats. In my world, it does. He turned to face me, his expression unreadable. You've created something extraordinary here. You've captured the soul of a culture that isn't yours, revealed truths many native Koreans miss or choose to ignore. That kind of vision is rare. That kind of talent is valuable. So this is about my professional abilities? Partly. His honesty was disarming. But it's also about the woman who chose these specific pieces. Who arranged them in this specific order. Who created meaning through juxtaposition and contrast. I want to know that woman. You have a strange way of showing interest. I have the only way I know. For the first time, something like vulnerability flickered across his perfect features. My world doesn't allow for normal courtship. Doesn't permit the luxury of gradually getting to know someone. Every person who approaches me wants something: money, power, connections, protection. Every relationship is a transaction. Including this one. You're offering me a dream exhibition in exchange for what exactly? His eyes met mine directly. Your time. Your attention. The chance to know you outside professional contexts. You mean dating? I couldn't keep the incredulity from my voice. If that's what you want to call it. What I want to call it doesn't matter. What matters is you don't threaten and manipulate people you want to date. You don't research their backgrounds and stalk them for months. You don't grab their wrists in public or make them uncomfortable at their workplace. For the first time, he looked genuinely surprised. I made you uncomfortable. That wasn't my intention. The disconnect between his actions and his awareness was startling. What did you think manhandling me in front of my colleagues would make me feel? He considered this seriously. Protected. Valued. Claimed. Claimed. The word made my anger surge again. I am not property. No. You're infinitely more valuable than property. He stepped closer, not touching me but invading my space nonetheless. In my world, Haley, claiming someone publicly means taking responsibility for them. It means declaring to everyone that their well-being is your concern, their enemies are your enemies, their future is tied to yours. I never asked for that. You needed it the moment you accepted this position. The moment you decided to enter a world you don't understand, filled with dangers you can't recognize. A chill ran through me. What dangers? His expression darkened. This exhibition features works worth millions. Some with contested provenance. All in a market rife with forgeries, money laundering, and worse. Did you think Min-ho wanted to show you his family's private collection out of artistic appreciation? He wanted information about authentication processes, about which pieces might be vulnerable. The implication stunned me. You're saying he wanted to, what? Steal from the exhibition. I'm saying art is rarely just about art. Not at this level. It's about power. Status. Money. And sometimes darker things. His eyes held mine steadily. 3 curators in Seoul have been approached by brokers in the past year. All pressured to authenticate questionable pieces. 1 refused and was found in the Han River. 1 accepted and is now being blackmailed. The 3rd disappeared entirely. Fear crept along my spine, cold and insistent. Why hasn't anyone told me this? Would you have taken the position if they had? When I didn't answer, he nodded. Precisely. The museum needs your expertise, your international reputation. They weren't going to risk losing you by sharing the uglier realities of our art world. But you're telling me. Because I want you fully informed. Because I want you safe. His voice softened slightly. Because I want your choice to be real, not based on partial information or manipulated circumstances. The irony made me laugh sharply. Says the man who just threatened my colleague and physically prevented me from leaving. Something like regret crossed his features. I operate on instinct. When Min-ho approached you, when he touched you. His jaw tightened. I reacted poorly. For that, I apologize. The apology surprised me more than anything else he'd said or done. Why me, Jae-hyun? Why this obsession with someone you barely know? He was silent for a long moment, studying me with an intensity that seemed to see past all my careful professional facades. Because you're fearless. Because you came to a country where you don't speak the language fluently, don't understand all the cultural nuances, and created something extraordinary through sheer will and talent. Because when I look at your work, I see someone who understands beauty can come from pain, order from chaos, strength from vulnerability. His words resonated with uncomfortable accuracy. My exhibition had been born from my own sense of displacement, my own experience of being simultaneously drawn to and alienated by Korean culture. That doesn't justify stalking. No. But it explains my interest. He reached out slowly, giving me time to move away, and when I didn't, his fingers lightly touched my cheek. I want to know you, Haley Bennett. Properly. On your terms. The touch sent electricity through my skin. I stepped back, needing distance to think clearly. If that were true, you would have approached me normally. Asked for an introduction. Invited me to coffee. Not, whatever this is. You're right. He dropped his hand. But men like me don't get normal beginnings. We don't get the luxury of being judged without our reputations preceding us. Before I could respond, the sound of breaking glass shattered the moment. Shouts echoed from the north gallery. Security guards rushed past the doorway. Jae-hyun's posture changed instantly, the conversational man replaced by something dangerous, alert. Stay here. He moved toward the commotion with predatory grace. I should have listened. Should have stayed put or called for help or done anything except follow him. But curiosity and concern pulled me forward. The north gallery was chaos. Shattered display cases. Alarms blaring. Security guards restraining a man in museum staff uniform who was bleeding from the nose. Director Park white-faced and trembling. And on the floor, the remnants of a priceless Celadon vase from the Goryeo dynasty. He tried to switch it, a security guard was explaining to Jae-hyun in rapid Korean that I could barely follow. The replacement was in his bag. We caught him before. Jae-hyun cut him off with a question I couldn't translate. The guard pointed to a service door, partially ajar. Everything happened with stunning speed after that. Jae-hyun barked orders that sent security rushing toward the exit. He moved to Director Park, speaking in low, urgent tones that had her nodding frantically. Then he turned and saw me standing in the doorway. His expression changed from controlled command to something like fear. He crossed the space between us in 3 long strides, grabbing my arm with urgent purpose. I told you to stay put. What's happening? What? We need to leave. Now. He was already pulling me toward a different exit, his body positioned between me and the rest of the room. I can't just leave. The exhibition, my responsibility, is compromised. Possibly dangerous. His grip tightened. That man wasn't working alone. His partners may still be in the building. You need to be somewhere secure while we determine. We? Who's we? Are you working with security? With police? The questions tumbled out as he guided me through a service corridor I hadn't known existed. In a manner of speaking. His focus was on our surroundings, checking corners before proceeding, moving with the practiced efficiency of someone familiar with potential threats. What does that mean? Are you some kind of security consultant? Is that why you've been watching me? Watching the exhibition. We emerged into the cool night air through a service entrance where a black SUV with tinted windows waited, engine running. A man in a dark suit opened the rear door as we approached. Jae-hyun finally paused, turning to me with an intensity that made my breath catch. The exhibition features 3 pieces from my private collection. Pieces that rarely leave my secure facility. I permitted their inclusion because I wanted to see your work in person. Because I wanted to see you. You're a collector. That doesn't explain this. I gestured to the waiting car, the suited man who was clearly security, the entire cloak and dagger situation unfolding. I'm more than a collector, Haley. His eyes held mine, serious and direct. Much more. And right now, you need to trust me and get in the car. Why would I trust you? I barely know you. Because someone just tried to steal or replace artifacts worth millions from your exhibition. Because whoever organized that attempt knows you're the curator. Knows you're responsible for authentication and security protocols. And because right now, you're potentially a loose end they might want to eliminate. Fear crystallized in my chest, sharp and cold. You think I'm in danger? I know you are. His voice softened slightly. Let me protect you. Just for tonight. Tomorrow, when things are secure, you can decide what you want to do. Whether you want anything to do with me or my world. Every instinct screamed this was insane, getting into a car with a man I barely knew, a man who had demonstrated controlling and possessive behavior, a man rumored to have criminal connections. But the alternative, staying at a museum with potential thieves or worse, seemed equally dangerous. Fine. One night. Then I make my own decisions. Relief flickered across his features. Agreed. As he guided me toward the waiting car, his hand protective at the small of my back, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was crossing a threshold I could never return from. That whatever waited on the other side of this night would fundamentally change everything I thought I knew about art, about soul, about myself. And most terrifyingly, I wasn't sure I wanted to go back. The car pulled away from the museum, carrying me into Jaehyun's world. A world I was beginning to understand was far more dangerous, far more complex, and far more seductive than I had ever imagined. I was falling into the orbit of a man who collected beautiful, precious things. A man who had decided, for reasons I still didn't fully comprehend, that I belonged in his collection. Don't you dare look at anyone else, he said softly as the city lights blurred outside the window. You're mine now. And I protect what's mine. The words should have terrified me. Should have made me demand the driver stop immediately. Instead, they sent a thrill of something darkly exciting through my veins. I was claimed by a monster. And God help me, some part of me wanted to be. That night changed everything. My career. My safety. My heart. If you want to know what happens when you're claimed by Seoul's most dangerous man, how deep his world goes, how dark his secrets are, and whether love can possibly survive in the shadow of violence, then click the link in my description to continue my story. The full novel drops tonight at midnight. Don't miss your chance to discover if I became Jaehyun's salvation, or his greatest weakness. And if you enjoyed this preview, please subscribe now for more captivating stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat.